Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Great AI Rush. So, to get us started, we're going to start off with some introductions. So, I'm going to intro myself and then I'm going to pass it off to my co presenter and I have him introduce himself. Before we get started, may I ask a favor of everyone? Could everyone please go on mute just to keep down on the background noise? Now, we will have points throughout the presentation where you will maybe want to come off mute to participate in the discussion. Totally up to you. But for now, can you go on mute? And then when you're ready to speak, you can come off mute. So, to get started with the introduction, I'll start by introing myself. My name is Dr. Alita Bell. I carry a little bit about my background. I carry with me about 3 decades of IT experience. I have been blessed to touch many areas of IT. I have worked in manufacturing. I've worked in the memory chip business. I've worked in the technical patent search business. I have worked in DevOps. I work in networking. I've done a competitive analysis. And of course, I work with AI and machine learning. Now, even though I call myself a lover of all things technology, I have to admit that of all of the areas that I just named and all the areas that I've touched in IT, I feel like AI is the one that I am the most passionate about. My interest in AI started prior to this big AI rush that we're all living through, this historical AI rush that we're all living through right now. And that is why I'm so happy and I feel so blessed to be able to speak to you all today about a topic that I am so just, as I said, passionate and excited about. And with that, I'll pass it off to my co-host, my co-presenter, so he can introduce himself.
Hey guys, hey, I'm Pat Bowden. I get to be here because I'm friends with Dr. Lydia Bell. That's really my claim to fame. I am I've worked at the company that Alita's at for 30 years. I just recently in the last 7 weeks left and went to another company called Worldwide Technologies. We're the largest partner in the world for NVIDIA. And so my job is to be the principal AI evangelist globally for Worldwide Technologies. So I talk about AI every day, every minute of every day. I'm a little bit different. Anybody that claims that they're an expert in AI, that's not really possible. There's too many different vectors in it. What I'm very good at is prompt engineering, specifically because of my business background. My claim to fame is I'm the only certified public accountant that is like the highest level Cisco engineering, which has got a name. You don't have to worry about it. Anyway, so that's my claim. So I'm a business guy who happens to be able to leverage technology, which is perfect for the domain of AI because it allows me to get great insight where it may not have been as easy or even possible in the past. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to hang out with the lead anytime I get a chance to. Thank you
But
guys.
feeling is mutual. Thank you so much, Pat. Okay, before we get started, before we get into the meat of it, a few things that I think is worth noting. So first of all, this presentation, this talk is not designed to make you an AI expert. Okay, as Pat just said, it's impossible to call yourself an expert in AI because AI is so vast, it's so big, it is so much. The purpose of this talk, the purpose of this presentation is to provide you with a very high level, non-technical explanation of what AI is and how it works, and also how we use AI today. Um, the other thing that I think is worth noting is that, and many of you probably already know this, but AI is moving so fast. AI moves fast. What we talk about today and what is current today in this conversation, it could be 30 days from now, it could not, it could be outdated, not no longer current. So just keep that in mind. Even though we're calling this a non-technical AI introduction, there are three technical phrases that we will talk about and we will use. Those three phrases are generative AI, also referred to as Gen AI. The other one is AI model, and the other one is AI data. I went back and forth on whether or not we add these phrases in because I kept saying, well, this is non-technical. I don't want to get too technical. But then I thought about it. I said, well, these phrases, when it comes to AI, are used in non-technical conversations all the time. I hear them in commercials all the time. So I said, you know what I think? And if you are someone who's serious about leaning more into AI, these are three phrases that I think that you should be comfortable with if you hear them in a conversation. So I thought it was a good idea to add them in, and we talk about it, and I mentioned them throughout the presentation. The first phrase that I want to start off with explaining to you all is AI model. Okay, so throughout this presentation, you will see on multiple slides where I have brains on the slide. I want you to think about an AI model as a human brain. In our brains, this is where we learn things. This is where we make decisions. So I want you to think about an AI model in the same way. I want you to think about an AI model as a brain that learns things and makes decisions. Whenever you see a pink brain on the slide, that is an indication that that's an empty brain. So that's a brain that knows nothing. It hasn't, that's an AI model that is untrained. It hasn't learned anything. It doesn't know anything. However, when you see a colorful brain on the slide, that is an indication to you that that is a trained AI model, or that's a brain that has learned. It has been taught. It is knowledgeable. Okay. So when I was first, so Pat and I, we did this, I think back in May. Like the first time we did this back in May. And as I was preparing the presentation back then, I went to ChatGPT and Gemini both. And I asked both ChatGPT and Gemini, I said, okay, give me all of the major technology inflection points in history that changed humanity. So I got one list from ChatGPT and I got another list from Gemini. And then I took the two lists and I came up with what I thought were the top five. And so here are the top five, in my opinion, that I got between the two. So the major technology inflection points that in history that has changed humanity. Number one, the printing press. Number two, the steam engine. Number three, electricity. Number four, the computer chip. And number five, the internet. So this is what I concluded as the top five technology inflection points that had the greatest impact on humanity. And then I started thinking about some of the things that I have been reading and hearing from the AI influencers, the top AI influencers. One of the predictions that I've been hearing is this. I've been hearing that in the next 10 to 20 years, AI will be considered the single most impactful technology inflection point in history, passing the printing press and electricity. I want you to take a pause and think about that. It will pass electricity and it will pass the printing press. It will have a greater impact on our lives, on humanity, than electricity does today. Okay? So, what are we saying there? We're saying that AI is coming for the number one spot. Now, is AI number one today? No, it's not. However, if this prediction is correct, in the next 10 to 20 years, it will be the number one most impactful technology on humanity. And if you think about it, in my opinion, 10 to 20 years is not a long time. Especially if you think about the amount of time that it took some of these technologies to evolve. For example, the steam engine, that required us to build tracks, right? Across lands, across countries. We had to actually build train tracks. It took years to do that. So when you think about that, 10 to 20 years is not a long time. Okay, so let's start off with the two main goals of AI today. All right. So AI learns data to do one of two things. As I said when I first started, everything that we're talking about today is, as it exists today, but there's a possibility that 8 months from now, you may be watching another talk and they say, hey, we have three main goals of AI, or there are four main goals of AI, right? But today there are two main goals of AI. When you are using AI, AI will be doing one or two things for you. The first goal of AI is to learn data to perform a task. Okay? So it can perform the three tasks that it can perform is one, it can analyze text. An example of analyzing text, and this is just one example of many, is sentiment analysis. So when you go write a review, How many of you have ever went out and wrote a Google review? How many of you ever went on Amazon and wrote a review on a product you've bought? Whenever you write a review, there is AI in the background looking at that text, looking at that review you wrote, and it's saying, is this a positive review? Is this a negative review? Or is this a neutral review? That is AI analyzing text. The second task that it can perform is to make a prediction. Okay. One example of many is fraud detection. So when you're out swiping your credit card or you're out making a purchase, there's AI in the background looking at your activity saying, uh-oh, is this fraud? Or is this normal behavior? Is this normal behavior for this person? The third thing, the third example of AI performing a task is to process images. If any of you have an iPhone out there and you use the facial recognition to open your phone to unlock your phone, that is a great example of AI processing an image to perform a task for you. And that task is to unlock your phone. Okay. So that's the first goal of AI. When you use AI, the first goal of AI is it's going to learn data to either perform a task, or the second thing that it does for you is it will generate content. The three things that it can generate when it comes to generating content is it can generate text. Okay. So an example of that is you can tell AI, hey, can you write this email for me? Or can you help me write this letter? Right? Or can you help me write this paper? So that's generating text. Another example of AI generating content is it can generate images. For example, you can ask AI to generate a logo for you. You can say, "Hey, I have this company that I've started. This is the company." You can give it, a description of the company and say, "Hey, can you help me come up with a logo?" You can even tell it in some cases with some applications, "Here's my thoughts and my ideas. Can you help me come up with something?" The third example of what AI can generate as far as content is videos, and I kind of lump audio in there as well, but videos, right? So you can ask AI, can you go create me a marketing video? And you can give AI details on, what it is you're marketing, and you can say, hey, can you go create me a marketing video? I use applications to create videos with AI all the time for my company. So those are the two things. So AI, the two main goals of AI is going to learn data to either perform a task or it's going to generate some content for you. Now, of the two, the one on the right that you see, generate content, that is very big today. And I'm going to help you understand why that's very big. When AI generates content is referred to as generative AI, or you may hear it referred to as Gen AI. Now, remember, that was one of the three technical phrases that we had on the second slide. So, generative AI, you can hear generate in there, generate AI, generative AI. That is huge today. That is big today. And I'm going to explain why it's huge and why it's big. Now, what triggered, I just said when I started off, the name of this presentation was The Great AI Rush. All right. So, what triggered this AI rush? In November of 2022, a company by the name of OpenAI released an application called ChatGPT. And that completely changed the game when it came to AI. That triggered this big AI rush that we're all living in now. All of a sudden, you hear AI on TV all the time. Every company is talking about AI. This has triggered what ChatGPT did was trigger a technology race, not only between startups and companies, but between countries. The reason why is because the way they presented AI to us. They presented an application to us that can chat with you and generate content for you. For example, you could ask it a question. Who is the current president of the United States? Who won the last Super Bowl? What was the gold rush? And it'll give you the answer quickly. You can ask it, hey, can you help me write this email? Can you help me edit this email? Can you help me write the paper?
Okay, this
Uh,
is just
Can everyone go on mute? I think I hear someone in the background. Can you go on mute, please?
oh,
It can generate a paper for you. It can brainstorm ideas. I use ChatGPT to brainstorm ideas all the time. I'll go to ChatGPT and I'll say, I'm trying to come up with blah, blah, blah. Here's what I'm thinking, but I don't feel like this is it. Can you help me come up with something better and more? This is what ChatGPT did. It made it very consumer facing. And so that is what caused AI to this big AI rush, but the generative part of AI. Remember on the previous screen, I said AI will learn data to do one or two things, to perform a task for you or to generate something new for you. So if you think about it, if you say, hey, can you write this email for me? It's generating an email for you. So it's writing something new for you. It's creating something new for you. That is generative AI. And that is why generative AI is so popular today because of what OpenAI did with ChatGPT. However, that being said, AI is not a new thing, right? We've been consuming and using AI for years. As I said to you, my interest in AI started before we entered into this great AI rush. We've been consuming AI through many applications, right? Here's some of just this is just a few of the applications, some of the applications where we have been consuming and using AI prior to November of 2022 when ChatGPT was released. So Netflix, I know all of us have heard of Netflix or use Netflix. Amazon, everyone has heard of you using Amazon. Spam filter. So when you get an email and it goes to spam, that's AI. Siri, if you all use Siri, that Siri was around before ChatGPT, right? Google Maps, fraud detection, type in autocorrecting and predictive text. Sorry, guys. See, I just said Siri and Siri picked up on my phone. Google, Google Translate. All of these are AI applications that we have used prior to ChatGPT. It's just, it didn't get a lot of attention. A lot of people didn't talk a lot about AI until ChatGPT came along. So, if that is the case, if I'm saying to you that we have been using AI way before ChatGPT, way before November of 2022, what changed? I already talked about this a little bit. I talked about a little bit of what ChatGPT did, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about it to help us understand it better. What exactly changed when ChatGPT was introduced? So, first of all, before ChatGPT, when you consumed AI through experiencing it, right? So we here on the screen, what you see on the left-hand side is the Netflix example. When you use Netflix, you aren't sitting there using Netflix thinking about what's the AI algorithm that's going on in the background that's making these movie recommendations to me. We didn't care about that. We just wanted to watch Netflix and we wanted to watch movies that we liked. And we enjoy the fact that Netflix makes great recommendations for us. So before ChatGPT, AI just kind of felt mysterious. It felt like a black box. It wasn't something that we were really thinking about. We weren't worried about all of the AI algorithms that were running in the background. We just wanted to experience the application. That's it. But then when ChatGPT came along and they introduced when OpenAI introduced a ChatGPT in November of 2022, it changed the game because now AI started to feel tangible to us, right? We started to feel like, we could engage, we were engaging with AI differently. So we were consuming AI through engaging AI. We were talking to AI. We were asking AI questions. We were engaging with AI, almost feeling like when you talk to ChatGPT, you feel like you're talking to a person, right? So that is what changed. It was the way it was presented to us. It was no longer presented to us as this mysterious thing that's running in the background in this black box behind an application that no one really cares about. To now it's in your face, it's tangible, and you're actually engaging with it. That is what changed, and that is why now this we are living through this big AI rush because of the way ChatGPT, OpenAI presented AI to us through ChatGPT. All right, now I know I didn't tell you all this, and I'm sorry I didn't give you a heads up, but we are going to have a few quizzes throughout this talk. All right, so this is the time where if you feel comfortable, you can come off of mute. We have two questions, so I hope you were paying attention. I hope you were listening to what I'm talking about. If you don't want to come off mute and speak up, please feel free to put it in the chat. I'm going to come off. I'm coming out of sharing mode because I want to see what you guys say. But did it stop sharing? I'm sorry. No, I
Just stop sharing. Yeah, when you
didn't want to stop sharing. I just want to come out of presentation mode. All right. We have two questions, guys. First question. What are the two main goals of AI? Is it A, to perform a task? Is it B, to generate content? Is it C, to store information? Or is it D, A, and B, perform a task and generate content?
D.
D, A, and B.
Yeah, you got it right. Second question. What application triggered the great AI rush? Was it A, ChatGPT? Was it B, Chat Now? Was it C, Group Chat? Or was it D, A, and C?
Chat GPT A.
A.
Yes, ma'am. You got it right. Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. All right. So now you guys know we're gonna have some quizzes, so you gotta pay attention now. Gotta pay attention. All right. So now we're gonna get into explaining how AI works. All right. Before we explain how AI works, we're gonna take a history test together, y'all. Okay? So we're gonna take a history test. This history test will be based on a study guide that was created in January of 2023. All right? This study guide only has history on it up until January of 2023. So all history prior to that. Okay? We studied for this test last month. All right? But the only thing that we could study, we could use to prepare for this test was the study guide that was given to us. And that study guide only had history on it up until January of 2023. I hope you guys are still with me, right? Now, we studied in June of last month. So in June of 2025, we studied for this test. We used this study guide. But something happened in between the time that the study guide was made and the time that we studied. In January of 2025, a historical event happened. We elected a new president to the United States of America. Okay? Now, last week, we all went in and we took our test. And there were two questions on the test. The first question was, what was the Great Gold Rush? And the second question was, who's the current president of the United States? Then we got our test results back. And we saw that we got the first question right, but we got the second question wrong. Can anyone come off mute and tell me why they think we got the second question wrong? No?
Because we're using the study guide, and the study guide did not have the current information.
Right.
Exactly. The study guide was built with historical data up until January of 2023. The president was elected in January of 2025. We studied in last month and we took the test. So the only knowledge that we had in our brains was the historical knowledge up to January 2023. So when we were presented with the question on the test, who's the current president of the United States? We didn't say Donald Trump, we said Joe Biden. And that's wrong because Donald Trump is our president today. Now, if you understood that, I think you're going to understand how AI works at a very high level, okay? So you can think of the study guide. When we talk about the study guide, all of the information that we put into our brains to help us prepare for this test, that is historical data that is used to train an AI model, okay? So examples of historical data. If you're creating a medical application, the historical data will be all of the old patient records. If you're creating an educational application, the historical data will be all of the old student records, right? That's all of the data that we take and we feed into the model. We teach the model. We're helping the model learn with all of these old records. Then you can think of us studying when we sat down and we fed our brains and we started to study. You can think of that as us taking that untrained model. So the model knew nothing at first. Remember I told you a pink brain means an untrained model, means it knows nothing. And we're going through the process of training it. We're teaching it. It's learning. That's us studying. Then once we've studied and we've learned everything that we needed to learn about history. Now we have a colorful brain. And remember I told you, when you see a colorful brain on a slide, that's an indication that that's a trained model. That's a model that is learned. It is smart. It has some knowledge. And then when we take the test, we're actually using the model to make a decision. A decision has to be made, right? Because we were presented with some questions on the test. We were presented with 2 questions. We have to make a decision. What's the answer? And so the results that we gave, the answer that we gave was the AI performing the task. The AI saying, you asked me who was the current president of the United States, so I'm going to tell you, according to my knowledge, it's going to tell us that the current president of the United States was not Donald Trump, was Joe Biden. But again, as you can see here, the problem here is with AI models and the training and the learning, depending upon what you're asking it, there could be a knowledge gap and it could possibly get the answer wrong. So what do they do? What do we do in cases like that? In cases like that, I stress some AI models have a way to fix knowledge gaps and address knowledge gaps. Okay. So today, if you go to ChatGPT, depending upon the AI model or the version of ChatGPT that you're running, if you ask ChatGPT, who is the current president of the United States? The first thing ChatGPT is going to say, okay, what have I been taught? All right, what have I been trained? What is the AI model is going to say? And last night when I was looking at this, ChatGPT told me the last training that it had for the particular version that I was using was June of 2024, I think it was. So a whole year ago. It was June of 2024, right? So it's first going to check its knowledge and it's going to say, okay, who's the current president of the United States, according to what I was taught, all the data that I was given. And then with some versions of ChatGPT, and I think it's on every time I go to ChatGPT, it kicks in automatically, even though ChatGPT told me that web search doesn't always kick in automatically. But every time I use it, the web search kicks in. Then it's going to go do a live web search, and it's going to say, okay, based on, I'm going to look at the knowledge that I have, but also I'm going to go search the internet and do a live web search and see, is my knowledge current, right? And it's going to say it's going to go out and look to see who's the current president of the United States. The other thing that ChatGPT can do, and I'm just using ChatGPT as an example here because, but there's many AI models out there, but I'm just using the AI model that fuels and drives ChatGPT. So we're just using ChatGPT as an example. The other thing that ChatGPT can do is it can adjust based on feedback. So you may not have paid attention to this, but when you go out and use ChatGPT and you ask it something, you type something in, and it gives you a response. At the bottom, once it gives you a response, you can do like a thumbs up, you can do a thumbs down, or for me, what I do is when ChatGPT, I think it was about 3 months ago when I started preparing the first version of this presentation, when I went to ChatGPT and I said, who's the current president of the United States? At the time, it got the answer wrong, even if it was doing it said it was doing a web search, but it still got the answer wrong. And I told ChatGPT, I said, that's not correct. And ChatGPT said, oh, you're right, right? So it can, in other words, it's using feedback from the user to address the knowledge gaps. So if you went
Hey, Alita, I just tried it. In 03. The reasoning models know how to use search. So I used 03 and it got it right, but it didn't get it right first. It had to reason and then search. But I used 4.0 and it did not get it right. Interesting.
Exactly. So it depends on the model used. And that's why I stress some, because not all AI models will address the knowledge gap. They will still get it wrong. So thank you, Pat, for that. So Pat did a live demo thing for us. So once it looks at all of these things, so based on the model, it'll say, what is my knowledge that I already know, right? So you can think of that as the brain that's been fed all this knowledge. I can go do a web search and I can look at the feedback that I've been given, and then I'll generate an answer and I'll send it back to your computer screen, right? So again, I'm going to stress this again. Some AI models can address knowledge gaps by using web searches or user feedback. However, many AI models do not, right? They rely solely on the knowledge that you gave them, the knowledge that you taught them. So let's go back to our example of the history test, right? In that example, there was no way to fill the knowledge gap, right? We got it wrong because that's all we knew. That's all we studied. We only knew the history up until January of 2023. So in some cases, as Pat just demonstrated, some of the ChatGPT got it right in one case, and then another case it got it wrong. And I actually believe if you go to Gemini right now, you ask Gemini, who is the current Super Bowl champions? I know when I first asked Gemini that question, it got it wrong. Now it may get it right now, but my point is sometimes AI models have the ability to address knowledge gaps, and make sure that it's giving current and correct answers, and then sometimes it does not. All right. Last thing on fixing knowledge gaps, just to help us make sure we understand this. I want to go back to our Netflix example. How many of y'all have ever been watching Netflix and you did the thumbs up, the thumbs down at the end of a movie or a program? If you've ever done that, you are actually providing data to Netflix to improve its AI model. And that AI model is considered a recommender model because it's recommending movies and programs to you. But every time you do that little thumbs up or thumbs down, you're actually providing data to Netflix so they can improve their model. Okay? ChatGPT. This is a little bit more about what we just talked about. Pat actually demonstrated this with the question of who's the current president of the United States. But you can also do this with who won the most recent Super Bowl. So if you go to ChatGPT right now and you ask ChatGPT who won the most recent Super Bowl, but you tell ChatGPT don't use web search. This is what you're going to get. ChatGPT is going to tell you, as of my last update, June 2024, the Kansas City Chiefs won the most recent Super Bowl. And we know that's not correct, right? But if you say to ChatGPT, okay, who won the most recent Super Bowl, but use a web search, this is what it's going to tell you. It's going to tell you the most recent the most recent Super Bowl that took place on February 2025 was won by the Eagles. Wait, the Eagles the Eagles won the Super Bowl. They defeated the Kansas City Chiefs. So this is the last.
By the way, Anita, later I just looked, and Gemini last training date was July 22nd of this year. ChatGPT 4.0 last training date was July of last year. So there's a full year difference between Gemini and ChatGPT.
Gemini will give you the better answers, the more current answers.
More current answer. That's better.
Exactly, more current answers. So what he just said, if you think about the example that I gave with the history test, the data that we used to study for the history test was up to January 2023. So what Pat is saying, the difference between Gemini and ChatGPT is Gemini has more current, it has been taught more current data and information than ChatGPT. All right. So now, data. Y'all, data is extremely, extremely important when it comes to AI. We've been talking about data. We talked about when you think about studying for a test, you can think about the historical data as like the study guide. Data fuels AI. Without data, there is no AI. Data is extremely important. The human brain learns based on experience. So when you think about the way we as humans learn, we learn based on experience. We were born into this world. Someone put a bottle in our hand, and we learned that you take that bottle in order for me to feed myself and feed my stomach, I need to drink out of this bottle, right? We learned that when we came into this world that we had parents that would take care of us. Like we learned these things just through experiencing it, right? That's how the human brain learns. Well, AI learns, an AI model learns based on historical data. Historical data is to AI what experience is to humans, okay? The same way that a human brain learns by experiencing things, AI models learn based on historical data. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how AI works, all right? First of all, good data. Typically, if you have good data, you typically will get good AI results. All right. So here's an example of how AI works with what I consider some good data. And it's a very, very simple example. All right. So in step one, we have some data that we're going to use to train an AI model. All right. We're going to use some historical data to train an AI model. And here's the data that we're going to use. We're going to use the color red. We're going to use the color green. We're going to use the color yellow. We're going to use a cat, a shirt, and a dog. All right. We're going to take all of these data points, and we're going to feed it into this model. We're going to feed it into this brain. Remember, I told you a pink brain means it knows nothing. So we're teaching the brain. It's learning. It's learning all of these things that you see that we're teaching it. And then we're going to test it. Once we've taught the brain all of these things, we're going to test the brain. And so that basically what we're doing is we're testing the AI model that we have just trained. We're going to test its accuracy to see how correct it is. The same way that Pat just went to ChatGPT and Gemini and he asked it some questions to test to see how accurate it was. This is the same kind of scenario here, right? So we train the brain and then we're going to test its knowledge. And the way we test this knowledge, we're going to show it a red shirt. We're going to say, what is this? Right? Because we taught it what the color red is. We taught it what a shirt is. So we're going to show it a red shirt and we're going to say, what is this? Because I've taught you this. And then the model makes a decision, right? So the trained model, we've trained the model, we've taught it, we trained the model, we're testing it by asking a question, and then the model actually it actually makes a decision. The model makes a decision and it makes a prediction. And the prediction that it makes is it says it's a red shirt, right? It says it's a red shirt because we told it this is the color red. When you see this, this is red, and this is a shirt. When you see this object, it's a shirt. So the model looked at the pattern, the AI model looked at the pattern based on what we taught it, and it said, hey, I'm going to make a prediction that this is a red shirt. And guess what? It got it right. So good data equals good AI results. We gave it good data. However, bad data can equal bad AI results. Right? I think Pat just showed us an example of that. So one, in this scenario, we're going to train our model. We're going to train our model with some historical data. But look at the data that we're using, y'all. We're going to show it the color red. We're going to show it the color green. Look at the car that we're training it. We're going to tell it that object that it sees there is a car. We're training it with the color yellow. We're going to teach it what the color yellow is. We're going to show it what a shirt is. We're going to tell it what a dog is. So this is the data that we're giving it. Then we're going to test its accuracy. And the way we do that, we're going to show it an orange cat. We're going to say, what is this? Right? Because we've given you all of this data. We've trained you. We've taught you, what is this? The model's going to say, all right, I'm going to make a prediction based on what you taught me. My prediction is it's a yellow car. Does anyone want to come off mute and tell me why the AI model said it's a yellow car? Anybody?
Was it because it was not a part of the original data set?
It's because if you look over here under the trained model, we told it that a cat was a car.
Oh,
See that? So we said we said if you see this object that looks like this, it's a car. And we didn't even tell it what the color orange is. So basically what the model did was it looked at the data that we gave it and it made a prediction as best as it could. And so it said, you didn't tell me what the color orange is, but I see yellow. Okay, yellow looks kind of like it, so I'm gonna say it's yellow. And then you showed me this object and said, this object right here is a car. So I'm gonna say it's a yellow car. So that's bad data. So guess what? Bad data can be either wrong data or insufficient data. And we've shown that in this example. The bad data was us telling the AI model that a cat was a car. The insufficient data was us not even training it on what the color orange looked like. We only taught it red, green, and yellow, so it kind of had to guess. I want to pause right there because I know that was a lot. Anyone lost? Do I need to go back and explain it again? And I don't mind if you need me to. Everyone with me on that one?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. All right, now, another quick example of how AI works. I just thought I would use this one because we all go to the doctor, right? So this is an example of a hospital system, and they have a requirement. This is like a real scenario. Like there's a lot of hospitals out there that's going through this now or have just gone through this. So this is like a real scenario. Hospital system, they have a requirement to do automated summarization of medical records. And the reason why they want to do that is when a doctor comes into an office, it comes into the room to talk to you, they want to be able to look at your name and look at your medical records and get a quick summary of what's going on with you and all of your history and your background, right? So this hospital is saying, okay, we need a way to take all of our old medical records and we need to be able to summarize them for the doctors, right? So basically, in this scenario, what the hospital will do is they will take all of the old medical records, so that's the historical data. all of the old hospital data, all of the medical records, and they will train an AI model and teach the model all of the historical data, all of the medical records, and they'll feed it into the AI model. So now, and then the AI model will say, okay, now I have all of this data on Dr. Alita Bell. I know her entire history. So now when a doctor comes in the room to talk to Dr. Alita Bell, the doctor can give me my history, and the doctor has a really nice summary of what my history and what's going on with me. I just thought I would throw that one in there because I feel like we all go to the doctor, and that's one that we can all relate to. All right, quiz time, y'all. Get ready, get ready, get ready. Question. Why? So let me come off mute. Well, no, I'm not going to hit accept. Okay, stop sharing again. I don't know why I keep stop sharing when I come out of presentation mode, but I want to see what you guys' answers are. Okay, question. Why does an AI model, or you can think of that as an AI brain, need data? Does it need data to A, learn, B, to connect to Wi-Fi, or C, it doesn't need data at all? What's the answer?
To learn.
Yes.
Mhm.
Data is everything, y'all. Y'all, if you don't have data, you don't have AI. Data's everything.
Are you sure it wasn't Wi-Fi? No, I'm just
The next one. Bad data can be wrong data or not enough data. Is this true or false?
A, true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you don't have enough data, or if you're telling me, if you're teaching me the wrong thing, I'm going to give you the wrong answer because I'm going to give you the answer based on what you taught me. Now, we're going to pause right here. We're going to jump into the last section of this presentation, where we talk about how AI is utilized in businesses today. But I want to pause because we may lose Pat in about 15 minutes. And Pat has some amazing experience with customers. He sees what customers are using AI for today. So I want to take a pause before we go into this last part of the presentation and ask Pat, would he mind sharing with you all what he's seeing, the conversation kind of a little bit about what customers are telling him that they are using AI for today and what they're interested in AI for their businesses today.
Did you allow me to share? Because I have one
Yeah.
thing.
Did it not?
Oh,
Yeah.
no, it probably did. Okay. Why do I have to open? Let me see. Here we go. Maybe that'll let me share. Every single time you got to turn stuff on.
That's why we miss WebEx, right?
Oh, I don't want to leave the meeting. I may have to just talk about it if it ain't going to let me do it. Let me see. Here we go. All right. Okay, you guys should be able to see my screen now. Is that right?
Yeah, I see a chat.
All right. So I'm right here with a PowerPoint. You guys see it?
I see it. Yes.
All right. So what we're seeing right now, guys, I'm engaged in tons of use cases, tons of things people are doing. And the thing we lead with almost every single time in the business world is something simple. So the foundational models that Alita talked about obviously are incredibly useful, and I use them myself. And so whether that's even though ChatGPT was trained last year, it does have massive access to search, so you can actually get everything you want. So I use ChatGPT a lot. I use Gemini some. I use Anthropic a lot. And my company and other companies like Alita's company have built their own chatbots as well that are like ChatGPT. And ours is called Adam. Alita's is called Bridget. So that's what the people are using. When we go into the environment, the three most common things that we talk about are the ones on here right now. So an example of what we just said with ChatGPT would be a chatbot. The other thing is a knowledge-based system. So we get a lot of interest right now from a product example of a product that's kind of like a finder for the entire organization you're in, and it's called Glean. It allows you to see every bit of data in your organization, which is really helpful. So that's kind of a knowledge-based copilot. And then the last one is code generation. We're seeing a ton of that. The first ones were GitHub's Copilot from Microsoft, but we're seeing the most popular one right now is Windsurf. And by the way, they had some drama in the last week. They were trying to be bought by OpenAI, and that failed, and so Google kind of stepped in. So these are the kind of things we're seeing, and that's what we lead to. Now, when you extend that to a customer's environment, So the one that leaders is talking about healthcare. I was literally working on one exactly like that today. And then what happens when you do that, you need to build the infrastructure to do the training. And that infrastructure can be very expensive. So from an example of that, we're doing it's a known a project with the public sector in New York State. And our first implementation we're doing with them to do training and so it's going to be based for universities and high performance computing. The first implementation is $30 million. The second one's $300 million. So this thing that Lee is talking about training is huge and it's incredibly valuable. Now, as you extend it to the vertical you're in, whether it's in healthcare or manufacturing, retail, whatever else, it'll start to look like this. This is a financial one. And so these are the kind of things you might start with one of these. Like Alita talked about fraud alert. We see a lot of fraud detection. But if you think about what we can do with video analytics, what we can do with creating avatars for assisted banking, there's a massive amount of AI we could do. And just a simple example like this. In my company alone, we have done 70 distinct use cases in AI in the last year. And so these are some examples of those. So in retail, the ability to extend RPA, which if you haven't heard of that, it allows you to be more productive in a retail environment. Fast casual feeding gives you analytics for builds models for that. Healthcare, we're seeing a massive amount of this in healthcare. SLED is public sector, by the way. And so these are the kind of things we're seeing. And we see, but we always lead with the top things because most people can understand I need to be able to use an AI to be able to determine information I couldn't do on my own. Ali, do you have any questions for me on that?
Oh, no, this is amazing. Did anyone else have any questions for Pat?
I live and die in this every day, guys. If you have any questions on, it's crazy that we've only been doing this in a generative way for 2.5 years, which is really crazy. I felt like the last 2.5 years have been 10 years.
Exactly. And that's what I said. Like ChatGPT they just made generative AI just explode when they introduced ChatGPT.
Yeah. And we're on to other stuff, guys, now. So you may hear things like agentic AI and things like that are even beyond. And so and we're now going into physical AI, which is the self-driving cars and things like that. There's just a lot of opportunity. And so the question, if I were you, the question I would say is, where do I start? And I don't know if that's what you guys are thinking. Is that what you're kind of a question you guys would have? Where if I'm starting my journey, where do you start?
Anyone? I think that's the right question, right?
Yeah.
Well, how does it affect your daily life also? You're looking at things that you do and how it's affecting it in the background that you want to learn about.
Yeah. I think one of the things I've been doing, so I think, by the way, I really do believe this concept that nobody is an actual expert in AI, and because it's so large. So I've been doing business analytics. I'm a rare bird with my accounting background, and so I do a lot of business analytics. And so I am, by the way, and I have measured it. I've been doing the same kind of analytics stuff for almost 40 years, and I am compared to just a year, say 2 years ago. I am 500 times better than I used to be in analytics today than I was 2 years ago. So at the end of the day, I think it becomes very dependent on what you do, what your expertise is. We all have expertise. We all are experts in our own domain. And so I think that's the missing element in AI is we have a lot of geeks that do a lot of programming. But at the end of the day, none of this happens without domain expertise. And if you're a chef or whatever you do for a living, that expertise cannot be replicated by a computer without knowledge and nuance, if that makes sense.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
You can take over if you want.
But any more questions for Pat? Because I think we're going to lose him in about 7 minutes. So any more
Well,
questions?
and the reason she's not telling you is my bedtime. It's 8 o'clock.
I didn't want to throw that out there. I didn't want to say that. So any more questions for him before we lose him? All right, awesome. Thank you, Pat. So can you see my slides again?
I guess I'll stop sharing and see if you can do it now.
Okay. It says I'm sharing.
I don't see your slides.
Okay,
Does anybody else see Alita's slides?
let me try again.
I have a quick question. It's
Yeah, go
probably
ahead.
it's probably a generic question. So I'm in the trucking industry and we haul products, freight of all kinds. And I'm trying to get a contract with the government. How can I use AI to help me develop a contract or a business plan for the government? There are companies out there that will show me how to do it, but they're saying they're going to charge upwards of like $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah, so the easiest way to do it, the challenge is making sure you have good data. So and by the way, if you want to explore, I would explore another tool like ChatGPT and just understand the guardrail challenge of making sure you have good data. There are tools in contractual law like Harvey that does this work for you. So if you need that kind of work, we also, one of the things that people love about a tool that we've created, it's a little bit different than your need, but it's in the same category, is we have these large governmental RFPs that we have to respond to. And historically, those things have taken us forever to get done. And so now we actually have a tool that's actually refined with good data that allows us to respond to RFP. In fact, I think we did one last year. We had like there's a massive government RFP. I think historically would have taken us 2 to 3 weeks to do. And they gave it to us on like the day before Christmas. And we had to have it done like 2 days after Christmas. And we literally did it in like 2 hours. And it usually takes us 2 to 3 weeks. So that kind of stuff is real. To get it right, Vanita, you have to be really careful because these tools aren't, you have to put at least your own guardrails around them. They will give it flawed data. It's not that they're trying to lie to you. It's just that we're not giving enough guidance to them. So think about somebody that doesn't have all the knowledge. If you don't give them enough guidance, they're going to give you flawed information. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So I think I would experiment just so you would understand, but just don't be confident without checking. You need to be the human in the loop. But I do that, by the way. I do a ton of presentations, and they'll ask me for a description or a title. So I think this week I'm doing a presentation for the Cisco Inside Salesforce, those Salesforce Elite. I don't know if you're going, but I'll be there in Vegas at the end of the month, at the end of August. But they asked me to put a description together about the content I built. And I had all my content in a PowerPoint that was in PDF. And I literally just said, well, I know what I wanted. So I literally asked ChatGPT, gave it the content and said, and I didn't mind giving the content because it was public kind of content. So you have to be careful about that because if you give it as content, you can use it again. But for me, I didn't care. And what was great about it is it was able to give me a really decent description about that session I was doing in like 30 seconds, and so I can make it a little better, but being able to get that insight quickly is incredibly powerful if you have to do work like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I talk about he talked about guardrails. I actually touched on guardrails towards the end, so we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Can you all see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, great. So now, and thank you, Pat. I know you probably have to drop in 3 minutes, so thank you so much. I appreciate you joining and thank you for your insights. So, all right, guys, let's take about 15 minutes to close this out. If you guys can hang in, I know we'll go 15 minutes over, but if you can hang in with me for 15 minutes. So let's talk about how AI is utilized in businesses. Pat just talked a little bit about that, about what he's seeing. So there are 3 areas where businesses typically use AI, either in operations, product or service, or governance, right? So a lot of times businesses are saying, how can I apply AI in my business? So for operations, it's all about AI improving how a business operates. For product and service, it's all about AI is added to improve how a product or service works. And then governance is AI ensuring a business decisions follow company and government rules. So I have examples of all of these. So don't worry. So as you see these slides, don't worry if you don't understand it because I have an example of each one to help you understand it better. So AI in a business's operation. So first of all, this is a good starting point for many businesses. A lot of companies like to start with, okay, using AI in my operations. Why? Because first of all, it gives them a competitive advantage and it helps them to move faster. What you see there at the bottom of the screen are examples of different applications of where you can apply AI in a business operation. We've talked about some of these already, but customer service and support, finance and accounting, so like fraud detection, which we talked about earlier, human resources, so recruitment and employee engagement, supply chain delivery processes, so demand forecasting and route optimization. Here's a specific example of how AI is used in a business's operation. This specific example is about customer services, a customer support example. And I'm using the Amazon call center for this particular example. Now, if we think about the Amazon call center, and let's pretend that we're going to go back to before AI was actually integrated into the Amazon call center process. So before that, and this is actually what you're going to see on the right is a real scenario that I just went through a couple months ago. But let's on the left, we're going to talk about the process, the customer support process for Amazon before AI was embedded into their processes. So you would call to, so let's pretend you had to call Amazon to return a purchase. First of all, when you made that phone call, you were on hold to wait for an agent for a certain amount of time, right? And then the agent had to manually look up your information about your purchase. So you're calling to say, I need to return this purchase. You're on hold. The agent picks up and the agent says, okay, I need to look up your purchase. And in most cases, the agent didn't know. A lot of times the agent wouldn't know answers to the questions that you asked. So if an agent didn't know an answer to a question that you asked about that purchase that you're returning, what would they have to do? They'll put you on hold. They say, hey, I need you to go on hold. Let me go figure this out, right? So in this scenario, we're pretending that the agent had to put us on hold 3 times. And then the agent said, okay, I'm going to provide you a shipping detail so you can return this product. It gave me the shipping details over the phone. And then the agent told me, listen, your refund will not be processed for 10 days until after the package is returned. And then in this particular scenario, we're going to just assume that this process took us about 30 minutes, right? And so this scenario is even though we're kind of pretending that this is the scenario and the process that we went through to return a product to Amazon before AI, this is really kind of how the process works. Okay. So now let's pretend that it's really not pretend because I actually had to do this. This is my scenario that I went through. Let's go to a scenario where we returned a product to Amazon after now today that they have AI embedded into their processes. So the process that I had to go through, I purchased a stepper machine, but when we got the stepper machine, it was broken. So we had to return it. And so what I did was I just went online. I went to my purchase history on Amazon, and you all know this. And I contacted customer support through the website, and I said I need to return this product. Well, for this particular product, because of the type of product it was, I couldn't just hit return and then go drop it off at a UPS or something like that. I had to actually call. So, but when I called, the agent already had my details about the purchase. The agent said, okay, you want to return this purchase? I'm going to schedule a pickup time. And the call ended. I was on the call no more than 7 minutes, if that. They came to pick up the package a week later. And then after the package was picked up, a few hours after the package was picked up, I received an email saying your refund has been processed. So this is a comparison between how a business integrates AI into their customer support process, particularly Amazon, before AI and then after AI. Can you imagine today if you went, and I know all of it, I'm using Amazon because we all use Amazon. Well, I know most of us use Amazon. Can you imagine today going to Amazon to return a product without all of those AI features and functions built in? Right? Because in most cases, you don't even have to call like I did. All you have to do is go into the website and click the product, say, I want to return this. And they say, okay, here's your return slip. Go take it to wherever, drop it off. Boom, you're done. As soon as you take it into the UPS store, wherever you take it to, your refund is on the way. So that's one example of how AI can be used in a business's operation. Now, the other area that we talked about is businesses using AI in their product or service. First of all, I think today customers just expect companies and businesses to use AI in their product or service. It's expected, right? It makes things easier. And it is becoming easier to integrate AI into a business product or service. It's not as difficult as it was before because of how fast the AI is evolving. And it makes companies more profitable when they integrate AI into their product or service. Some examples of a company integrating AI into their product or service is around generating marketing content, making recommendations, a product or service making recommendations. We talked about Netflix, Amazon does this. Patient care, so patient monitoring. We gave the example of the patient records, disaster recovery and disaster response. So here's an example of AI, a business using AI in their product or service. This particular example, I'm going to use Spotify. I think even if I don't use Spotify, but I think we've all heard of Spotify. I used to use Spotify years ago. So this is a music service example, Spotify, and we're going to talk about the Spotify experience before AI and then the Spotify experience after AI. Now, I can actually speak to the Spotify experience before AI because I was one of the early users of Spotify years ago. I didn't like it, so I never continued to use it. But when you think about the Spotify experience, if you were one of those people like me who used Spotify before AI was embedded into their product, what was the listening experience like? So first of all, you had to manually go through and pick songs. Songs played based on just like broad popularity. So like, what are the popular songs at the time? You had to search a lot. The search wasn't the best when you were looking for particular artists and songs that you like. The suggestions that it made, it just didn't feel personalized. And because of that, for me, my listening time, and I'm pretty sure for others, my listening time was low because when Spotify was first introduced, I really didn't care for it too much. Well, now let's fast forward to now how they've integrated more AI features and functions into their applications. So now Spotify, with all of their AI features and functions built into their product, their music suggestions feel fresh and relevant. You have to put less effort it is required to build like a personalized playlist for yourself. Little less time is needed to search because their search is AI powered and it's much better. They suggest music that you like, so the suggestions are much better. And because of that, listening time probably goes up. So now people probably spend more time listening to Spotify because of all of the AI features that are built into the product. The last category is AI for businesses using AI for governance. So first of all, like when businesses use AI for governance, AI can be used to make sure that the business is following the right guidelines in the use of AI, right? Because people use AI for bad reasons. Everyone doesn't use AI for good reasons, right? Some people don't. They kind of use AI to do bad things. Governance is also AI governance is also about making sure that the company and the users of the AI within that company complies with new AI laws and regulations. That's extremely important as well. And to make sure and ensure that the right AI guidelines is not only being followed, but keeping AI fair and harmless. Right. So that's when we talk about AI, businesses using AI for governance, that's what we're talking about, making sure that we're following the right AI guidelines. We're not using AI to do anything bad or harmful for anyone, and that we're making sure we are staying in line and following the new AI laws that they're constantly coming out, right? That, and new AI laws come out, we want to make sure that our businesses and companies and businesses want to make sure they're following those. Here are some examples of areas where AI governance is extremely important. So when it comes to patient data protection, right? Also, when it comes to like making sure that businesses and companies making sure that they're following fair hiring practices. Another great example is email compliance. Social media, so flagging misinformation or hate speech or harmful things. The example that I wanted to highlight for this one to show, how businesses can use AI for governance is email compliance. I felt like this was something that we can all kind of relate to because a lot of us send emails, right? So when it comes to email compliance, let's talk about email compliance in a company prior to AI being used and powered for compliance. So prior to that, when a company would send when company emails were sent, And let's, for this particular example, let's just pretend this is like a finance company, right? So let's pretend that this finance company, there's, Chris, he's sending an email to Joe about a customer, about a particular customer. And he sends his email, but in his email, you can see that he actually puts the credit card number of the customer that he's talking about in an email. And that's a big no-no, right? So how would we have dealt with this before AI, right? Before AI, a team would manually check the employee's email for risk, right? So a team would have to manually check as many emails as they can and say, are they putting personal information in this email? Are they putting, social security number? Are they putting address? Are they putting credit card numbers? And because of this, because of limited manpower, you can imagine that you couldn't, huge companies, especially huge companies, they can't touch every email, right? So many emails just didn't get touched. And because they only could sample, they could only touch a sample and check a sample of emails because they were doing this manually. There was no AI to automate it. So there was limited manpower. So a small percentage of emails got checked. So what does that mean? There were a lot of things that got like leaked through the cracks when it came to email compliance and making sure important email was not included in important customer information was not included in emails. And that puts the company at risk, right? Because if the wrong information is sent in an email about a customer and that's exposed, I mean, that can ruin a company's brand. Now, once AI was integrated into emails for email compliance, it changed the game, right? So now you can automate this with AI. AI can now scan emails in real time. So they can touch almost every email that comes through. They can automatically flag compliance risk. So if it sees in this particular case, he put the customer's credit card number in there, and that's not okay. That's a violation. AI can flag that and stop it. It can manually check and stop the email before it's actually sent. The compliance team will automatically receive a notification to say, hey, listen, Chris over here just sent an email with some personal information about a customer in it, which is not okay. And the other thing is, now we use AI. AI can be used for email compliance. The AI system continues to learn from behaviors and activities and emails to improve. And so it looks at historical data to say, okay, how can I learn and improve and get better at checking and finding email compliance violations? So that's an example. So now to close us out here, I want to talk about the top AI trends of 2025. The top AI trends of 2025 that you guys should be aware of is one, first of all, generative AI. I've talked about that. Generative AI, just to tell you again, this is when AI generates something new for you. So you say, hey, can you generate this contract for me? I want to write a contract up. Can you generate this email for me? Can you generate this picture for me, this video for me, this logo for me? Generative AI is AI generating something new for you. Text, image, video, or audio. That's the first trend. Second trend, is AI security. Everyone, and I don't know if Pat is still on, but I think anyone that you talk to who talks to customers about AI security is top of mind for them, right? It's all about making sure they're protecting their company's data, putting the right guardrails in place. So Pat mentioned guardrails, right? So guardrails, think about this to help you understand what that is. Imagine that your company and you have employees who go out and use ChatGPT. Imagine you have an employee that says, I'm going to go use ChatGPT to help me write this email to this customer, right? And so imagine your employee writes up the email, cuts and pastes that email into ChatGPT. And then it's that customer, your employee says to ChatGPT, can you help me edit this email? And let's pretend that email had the customer's name in it. It had the customer's address in it. And maybe it had some other information, like maybe the customer's social security number in it. And they took that email and they cut and pasted it into ChatGPT. Now, the problem with that is they have taken your customer information that is private and put it into a public AI model, an AI model that where they're sharing all of this information with this AI model. And that's not okay. And so when we talk about guardrails are things that companies can put in place to say if that employee cuts and pastes that email and sends it into ChatGPT, it can check to say, wait a minute, before I send this information into ChatGPT or Gemini, let me make sure that this employee is not sending some sort of confidential company information into ChatGPT, because that's what you don't want. So AI security and things like guardrails is really important, and it's top of mind for a lot of people today, for a lot of companies today. The other thing I think Pat mentioned was AI agents. So you can, I know we didn't talk about AI agents, but it is one of the top AI trends. So I did want to mention it at the end here. AI agents, pretty much you can think of an AI agent as AI programs and applications that can kind of make decisions on their own. They can perform tasks on their own without intervention. So an example of that is, let's say you schedule a meeting, or you say you need to schedule a meeting out of town. You schedule that meeting out of town. AI agents, you can come up with an application where AI agent says, okay, she scheduled a meeting out of town in New York. I'm going to go check flights for her. And then once I find a flight, I'm going to go actually book the flight for her. Then I'm going to go check for hotels for her, because I know she's going to be in New York for a meeting, because she just said she scheduled a meeting for New York. I'm going to go book the flight. I'm going to go book the hotel for her. So AI agents are software applications that can work together on their own to perform tasks without human intervention. That is huge now. That is the big push for AI. That is what a lot of these companies are working on. They are working on creating AI agents. The next thing is workforce augmentation. This is another big one. Many companies are using AI to augment the workforce. They're using AI to increase productivity and scale. They're using AI to do more with less. The fifth top AI trend is ethical AI. So in other words, using AI to remove bias and enforce fairness. Now, the next thing you see there after the dash is just Dr. Bell's thoughts, right? So I always say, because ethical AI is big, and a lot of companies, when you talk to them about AI, they want to talk about ethical AI. I always say, okay, yes, AI can be used. We can say that AI can be used to remove bias and fairness and enforce fairness. But at the end of the day, what did we talk about when we started? We talked about AI makes decisions based on what it's taught. So if it's taught biased information, right? If it's taught things that are not fair, then is it going to make fair decisions? To me, at the end of the day, it just goes back to the data of what AI is taught, right? So if it is trained and taught to make decisions on who gets the home loan or who gets the car loan, and if that data is based on a certain group of people, let's say, for example, African Americans get denied more for home loans, well, that's the data that you're using to train the model, then guess what the model is going to do? So that's just something that I say keep in mind when we talk about using AI for to removing bias and increasing fairness. Just remember, well, what data are we using to train the AI? Closing points, y'all. Data is gold. Data is the foundation of AI. If you don't have good data, your AI won't give you good results. If you don't have sufficient data, your AI won't give you good results. I say to everyone that I talk about with AI, when I talk about AI with businesses and people, I say, listen, I don't care if you don't need the data, you don't think you need the data today for an AI application, keep it. Because you just don't know down the line. There may be some sort of AI application where this data is the key to making sure that your AI model is giving you quality data. So I say, keep the data. Don't discard any data, keep it. 5 years. I keep saying to people that any business that is not embracing AI today, right now, any company, any business that is not leaning into AI today will not be around in 5 years. When you go and follow a lot of the AI influencers, they're saying 10 years. Their prediction is any company that's not leaning into AI right now today will not be around in 10 years. I'm saying 5 years because I'm looking at how fast AI is moving, and it's moving much faster than I ever thought. So I say I don't even think it's going to be 10 years. I think it's going to be 5 years. Because when your competitors adopt AI, they're going to move faster. When a companies and business competitors adopt AI, they're going to operate more efficiently. And they're going to be able to meet their customers' needs much better and much faster. Workforce impact. This next point is not designed to scare anybody. That's not the point of this. It is all about making us all aware, helping us all to prepare. AI will impact jobs. AI will take jobs. AI will also create jobs, but it will not create jobs at the same rate that it takes jobs. Anytime I see an executive stand on stage and say AI will not take jobs, I immediately have trust issues because AI is already taking jobs. So we should make sure that we're prepared for this transition that we are already in. So the question becomes, how do we make sure we're prepared? In my opinion, I think the way you make sure you're prepared is that you look at the skill set that you have today, because we all have a skill set. Whatever you work in, whatever you do, you have a skill set. And you say, okay, can I combine my current skill set with a basic knowledge and understanding of AI? And can I compare those two together? And can I navigate through this shift that we're about to go through? I will recommend that you try your best to learn new AI applications. At a very minimum, you should be using ChatGPT and Gemini, the applications like ChatGPT, Gemini, and maybe even Claude. You do not have to be an AI expert. You can take on AI projects. You can take on, a lot of companies now are spinning up AI projects, and they need people who understand the process of how it works now today without AI to come to the table and say, listen, here's the problems we're having with this process. We don't have this, or this is slow, or this doesn't work. They need people with that knowledge to understand, okay, how can we use AI to fix these issues and problems with the current process? I read an article on LinkedIn, and I think it is so true. The people who will not survive this transition and will find themselves in about 5 to 7 years saying, okay, I'm having a hard time finding a job because of AI, are the people who do not lean into AI today. The people who do not try to learn the AI applications. The people who don't try to embrace AI and pair it with their current skill set. There are free courses you can take. You can find these courses on LinkedIn, Google, Microsoft offers them. Some colleges even offer them. I would strongly recommend, I'm not saying you have to go get a degree in AI like I did. I'm not saying that. But I would strongly recommend that you go take some free AI courses and make sure you add that to your resume and think about how you can pair that with your current skill set. And the last thing I would say is grant yourself some grace. As we started off with, I think Pat said it best. No, if you talk to someone and they tell you they're an AI expert, run from them because it's hard to be an AI expert. AI is big. It is deep. It is moving fast. It is hard to be an AI expert. I have a doctorate in it and I only know a certain part of it. There's so much more to AI that I don't even know. I'm learning something new about AI. So you have to grant yourself some grace. Don't feel overwhelmed or don't feel bad if you don't get it all. You won't get it all, but just try to take it in small chunks and get as much as you can.